Let's get this thing going. Looks like we have a bunch of folks in. And as I said today, we're going to talk about mind-blowing trends in BI and analytics for 2023. With me, as usual, is Casey McGuigan, our product manager and product owner for Reveal. My name is Jason. I am the Senior VP of Developer Tools over here at Infragistics, and I spend most of my time lately on Reveal. It's one of my favorite things to do. There's a lot of exciting things happening with Reveal. Today, we're going to talk about trends in the market, but we'll have these follow-up webinars throughout the year that are talking about what we're doing new in Reveal, how to implement Reveal. We're doing more on video on YouTube, so there'll be more videos up there. So if anyone has any questions about implementation details with Reveal, how to use Reveal, how Reveal can help your business, please shoot us an email. We would love to chat. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about the Reveal survey, the highlights in that survey. If we have time, we'll do a demo. That's about 50-50 if we have time. If not, we will send the demo link with the follow-up email. Some housekeeping, recording, and slides will be available after the webinar. We will send a follow-up email with all that information. And you've got the Q&A in the chat window. Use either one to ask questions throughout. Casey will be on to answer questions. So what is the Reveal annual survey? This is the fourth year in a row that we've done the Reveal survey. And like anything, any project or any initiative that you start in your business, it starts out slow. And then if it's something that people actually are interested in and care about, it actually starts to pick up and get adopted, and you start seeing some real results. So when we started this, we end up with the low hundreds of results, and now we're in the thousands of responses and replies to our survey. So it just gets valid, more and more valid every year. And then what we do is we look at other surveys and see how ours matches up with data that we're seeing in the market. And we're pretty happy to see that we have some really interesting insights, and then we have some very consistent insights across the IT specter, across the business specter, when it comes to the questions we're asking in the Reveal annual survey. So we're talking about company challenges, outlooks, trends in low code, trends in embedded analytics, trends in digital workplaces. So when we first started this, it was very focused on that BI aspect. We've broadened it a little bit and asked more questions, because all of these capabilities like low code, no code, like embedded analytics, like digital workplace, are what kind of bubbles up into that digital transformation discussion. So if an organization is looking at embedded analytics, they're probably also looking at low code, no code tools to accelerate delivery. And in fact, we're on the cusp of maybe looking at Reveal as a low code embedded BI tool. The amount of code you have to write gets less and less with every release that we do, and we try to make it easier and easier for you to get real analytics in your applications without much effort. So let's talk about the biggest software development challenges in 2023 that we learned from the Reveal survey. And what you're probably going to do, and we would love to hear your comments. I know there's a lot of folks online, but in the chat window or in the Q&A, let us know if this maps to what you're seeing in your organization or even what you're feeling. So, while all of these are roughly around the same percentage, we can see that it's fairly consistent with the challenges. Your inability to keep pace with innovation and developer tools is a big challenge. Difficulty with third-party integration, struggle to manage workload, security threats, project management, client expectations exceed what we can actually deliver. And if you look at data on the number of projects that fail yearly or every 5 years in IT, you'll start to see some correlation in numbers, right? So, surveys tell us that, 25 to 40% of IT projects never get deployed. And this maps to these challenges that you're seeing in software development. So 25, 26% of organizations are looking at security threats as a potential challenge in 2023. That's pretty high, right? You want to see that number about 5%, because security is something that will really change the perception of your application or your business if something negative happens. Third-party integration is always a challenge. In fact, I just had a meeting with our sales team. We have a new Reveal customer, and they want to add Amazon Athena integration with S3. Okay, is that as straightforward as it seems? Is there a sample that you might be able to give that customer? Does your application actually embrace third-party integrations? If you read anything from Gartner in the last few years, the success of every organization now depends on your ecosystem. It's no longer you can do everything on your own. So how well are you integrating with third parties? And maybe it is a cloud-based service. Maybe it's a security tool. Maybe it is just moving to the cloud in general, where your applications are working with the cloud. So these are obviously big challenges and probably felt by everyone on the call. Now, if we look at the top 3 biggest business challenges, this really hits home. And in fact, when I saw these numbers in the Reveal survey, I thought they were a little low compared to some other surveys that I've read from Accenture and some other folks that are doing specifically surveys on recruiting developers with the right skill. Hiring and recruitment is a huge issue today for every organization. So what ends up happening is you have to pay at the high end of the market because everyone can work remote. So even if you were that developer in, like for example, where are we seeing emerging developer skills coming into, European markets or in the US? It's coming from Africa. It's coming from Western Europe or Eastern Europe. So these are typically where you would have a brick and mortar, lower cost way of delivering software. Now you're a European company and you have a team or a person who's very skilled in a region that you would never build an office, but you're paying him at a fairly high rate. And the reason is, with the world being completely globalized now and everyone having an opportunity to work from home, with hiring being so difficult, companies are going after people or talent anywhere. So recruiting developers with the right skills is a huge challenge. It'll continue to be a challenge in forever now, right? Because the bar has been raised due to the pure democratization of talent globally. Keeping employees safe is obviously another high concern. And even when you read about a lot of the layoffs lately in big tech, when you think about keeping an employee safe or letting someone go in a safe manner, it is in the news everywhere. So how do you treat that employee? What opportunities does that employee have after they leave? Or for your existing employees, what are you putting in place in terms of mental health and other things? This is a huge concern. So you're looking at, almost 4 in 10 organizations looking at this as a huge business challenge. And especially if you have a very large organization, you're going to have layers and layers of human resources and layers of different groups of people that are really focused on this effort. And then limited resources never ends. In fact, we have a discussion with a customer and they want a feature and we're like, hey, listen, we only have this many folks to work on it. And his reply was, yep, understood. Same here, right? So everyone is working with less resources. What is going to help with that? Using some of these tools, embedding BI, using low code, no code tools, using a digital workplace. It really does give you that time back. So the limited resources aren't as, maybe present as they would be without those tools if you're going through a digital transformation. If you're like us, it's very difficult to hire certain key roles. And I think these are going to be very consistent year over year. DevOps is very hard to hire. Now, what I will say about DevOps is it's hard to hire experienced DevOps people. You can go get a DevOps person, maybe a software engineer, mid in their career, wants to do something different, but they don't really know the art and the science of DevOps. So hiring that really senior DevOps engineer is like, winning the lottery, because they can really change how you deliver to the market, how you do continuous delivery, continuous integration, all the automations on the back end, where a lot of that's done by developers today. Data and analytics developers also, what happens here is that maybe a few years ago, remember when data science was the biggest thing and you would get way overpaid to be a data science guy? Well, data science has become somewhat democratized. Now the data science folks need to have development skills. They need to be able to write scripts. They need to be able to do more than just work with data. So data science has kind of twisted a little bit into what developer skills do you have, maybe what databases or data science data tools are you using, and how are you an expert at that. So this role is sort of evolving. And then security will always be something that is difficult to hire for, especially on the high end, a lot of experience on large systems. And because everyone is moving to the cloud now, it means that you've got your infrastructure security and you have your cloud security and you have the security in your integrations. In fact, we are looking at a third-party SaaS tool to use, and that third-party SaaS tool has very impressive security capability, but it says, but if you use any of our integrations, you're on your own. So it's like, okay, I guess that's makes sense for them because they don't want to take on the responsibility of being part of the third-party integration, but there needs to be some level of integration testing where you can guarantee some level of security of your data. If not, you probably won't get that company's business. And then when we look at app building itself, in fact, I had a meeting earlier with one of the largest SIs in the world and one of their top CTOs, and they talked about how and where they're spending time in delivering digital transformation for customers. The big thing here is that there's not enough of that prototyping going on, and it's mostly because low-code tools aren't supporting it. Now, Infragistics happens to provide low-code tools that do have a really good design to code story with prototyping, but the prototyping story is still happening, but not in the app dev area. So the designers are off doing their thing, and it's not translating directly into what the developers can produce. So this is where we see some change coming moving forward, is that when you think about a design to code story, how does this prototyping design happen? And then where does the code generation come? The other thing that we do see is tooling and automation tooling really making a difference here in 2023. So our app builder tool continues to just deliver more and more of that code. So if you're building a prototype, we're going to get that into an Angular app or a Blazor app with, let's say, 60% of what you need to do done as a developer. So how can we get that to 70% or 75% in 2023? That's our goal. And that continues to be our goal, where the process of getting the core of the app built with all of the data access code, with all the screen design, with all the responsive and all that just gets automated and built by the tool where you're not worrying about it. And then when we look at 2023, of course, or 2022, because of this was sort of coming out of the pandemic, we believe like somewhat post-pandemic. 2023 is definitely, we're in a post-pandemic endemic state here pretty much globally, but this is where digital workplace started to happen. So because of the remote work, because of people not being in a brick and mortar office, you needed tooling that would help management understand what's going on and give teams better ability to manage projects, to have discussions, to share content, and all of these piecemeal one-off solutions that we might have used in the past really weren't valuable anymore. So this all-in-one sort of digital workplace becomes very, very important. And almost 60% of organizations in 2022 incorporated more than one app to help with hybrid and remote teams. So this is pretty exciting. This is a huge wave moving forward, and we're just going to continue to see these numbers grow and grow and grow. So think about the third item here: enable most or all employees to work remotely. It's only 35% of organizations. Globally, this number is only going to go up, because if you think about some regions in the world, the concept of working at home, it just didn't exist. Maybe in the US and other places it existed, but working from home was very new. So this big change was created by the pandemic, and now we see software solutions enabling organizations to do this in an easier, safer way where they can still manage the remote worker effectively, and they can still keep like company culture, company morale, and all the other things that sort of matter when it comes to doing this sort of workplace management. And then the biggest challenge is in communicating with team members in the hybrid remote environment. So we look at 41% there on the lower right, communicating within multiple software programs. It's hard to stay organized. So, we are a software vendor at Infragistics, so we sort of have to go where our customers are at. Internally, we use Slingshot, which is our digital workplace. You should check it out at slingshotapp.io. It does all of these great things, including that asynchronous communication. So when you think about having Slack open, Discord open, Teams open, Slingshot open, email open, there's a lot of incoming happening. What organizations, large and small, are doing is they're trying to reduce the number of those tools and settle on either one or a small set of tools that can give them that fluid capability to operate remotely. You have people in the office and remotely, and it's just too complex with all the communication tools that are happening today. So 41% of folks say it's too hard. 35%, there's too much time app switching, not only between my communication apps, but maybe between my application and my BI tool. So how can we drive digital transformation to do embedded BI? And then having team members in different time zones makes it difficult to communicate. So you think you have you look at your clock and you say, oh yeah, they're still over working in the UK, but you really have no idea. So you need tools that will facilitate that and let people know presence, where people are at, are they on mobile, can they actually communicate during the workday? So this will continue to be a huge issue. The whole concept of app switching and multiple platforms is why digital workplaces exist. So the move to a more all-in-one digital workplace, we believe, will be more ubiquitous in the next few years. And then if we look at higher revenue growth percentage in 2022 versus 2021, our red is 2022, blue is 2021. So we saw that across all aspects of 2022, except that 10% growth, which is at the smaller end. A lot of companies grew last year. A lot of them saw growth over from 2021 to 2022. Now, keep in mind, 2022 is when we started to see the inflation step in. We really saw severe supply chain issues, yet we still saw growth, 6-7% growth across organizations that went all the way up to like 50% growth. 2023 is going to be interesting. While there's confidence, there is the reality of that global recession continuing. And while everyone says we expect a recession, technically we were in a recession already. You look at, Europe, there's recession in Europe, there's a recession in the US. How is that going to affect IT spend? And how is it going to affect organizations that want to do digital transformation? Usually it's times like this where organizations did make a lot of cash last year. They do have profits. They're going to spend it this year because they need to get ahead of their competition. So if you didn't digitally transform yet, or if you've been looking at a software project that you think will give you an edge over your competitors, this is the time to do it, because those organizations that aren't ready, the ones that didn't grow, maybe they grew in that 10% range last year. They didn't grow in the 30 or 40% range. They don't have as much cash to spend. So it's prime for you to out execute them, or maybe even just acquire them. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can kind of tease out of the data when it comes to growth across businesses and then the percentage of growth. And I will mention, of course, because it's a very hot topic, is AI. Like, how is AI going to drive revenues or drive process improvement or drive the ability to cut costs for your customers? So then looking at embedded analytics specifically, which is what Reveal is all about, how did organizations use embedded analytics to drive decision-making in 2022? So almost 43% was to drive productivity. And that's what we see when I'm talking to customers and prospects, and we're talking about why embedding analytics is more important than having some SaaS-based solution where people have to jump over to another application, or they need to do app switching, or it's like an iframe embed where it's not really a good experience. That productivity savings is really key and critical. Driving sales, one of the things I always talk about when we talk to prospects and customers is that embedded analytics can modify your go-to-market. So you can charge extra for embedded analytics, and we have plenty of customers that do this. So while you may be saying, well, the cost of embedded analytics seems to be high for what my budget is or what my revenue is, think about driving new revenue streams. There are white papers on our website that give examples of that. Cutting costs, customer relationship management, identifying new market opportunities. All of these things are more or less in that bucket of customer satisfaction and productivity. And then when we look at things like data storytelling, identifying trends in data, that isn't as important at the broader level, but it's important to those power users, right? So a power user who's using something like embedded BI would be really looking at trends, whereas someone who is just trying to do a sales meeting and look at, here's our sales data, they're going from a horrible spreadsheet experience and not having visualizations to something that is beautiful and simple to read. And so that's where people are really seeing those benefits at that broader scale at the top end in the 30 and 40% range, which is what we see as well. So it's not necessarily a conversation where we need to do the super deep analytics and do all this stuff. Maybe you do that in like a Jupyter notebook with a data scientist. What it really is about is making your employees or customers smarter about decision making, helping them make decisions faster, helping them cut costs and save time. So these are the things that just a dashboard can win the day over something like Excel. Top use cases, improve productivity. So this kind of maps to what we just saw, but these are these top use cases, understanding business problems. I just got out of a sales meeting. All of our sales are shown with dashboards built in Reveal that are inside of Slingshot, our digital workplace product. But you're looking at these charts, and it's very easy to have the conversation about what's happening in a certain region with a certain product and just have those discussions where before, when you're not looking at a visualization, when you're not looking at BI in your applications, those conversations don't happen. When you are actually sharing information and creating that transparency and creating that collaboration, business skyrockets, decision-making skyrockets, accountability skyrockets. So these are all of the benefits of using BI in your application, and specifically embedded BI, because you can go use any SaaS tool, but then you're not getting that in context experience with the BI tool. So let's wrap this up. I think today we were thinking about doing a demo, but since this is, we're at the 30-minute mark, basically, we'll send a demo link because the demo is usually the same in what we do about how that end user experience is, or how do I embed this into my application. But we did have a question, will Reveal be providing AI functionality? So Reveal does support AI today. We support it in a few ways. With Azure ML, you can use your Azure machine learning models with data in Reveal to deliver insights. You can use Google BigQuery ML. So Google BigQuery is really great in the fact that you can do everything in the cloud with the data that exists in the cloud and then constantly run models against that. So in fact, I'm pretty sure I have a demo I'll see up on YouTube of using machine learning AI with Reveal, but we're continuing to look at ways to improve the AI experience in all of our tools. So right from Slingshot to App Builder to Reveal, AI will be a major part of these tools. And in fact, Slingshot is interesting because it has an actual avatar named Emily, and Emily will give you insights and it'll suggest things to you as you're using the product. And we're at the very early stages of that now, but throughout this year and beyond, you'll see that AI really take off. So if anyone has good ideas about AI for Reveal, I'd love to hear them, but we do support the cloud-based AI tools today, which is actually pretty sweet. And you do a little bit of configuration and you say, hey, use this model, use this data, and like magic happens right in the dashboard. And the great thing is the demo that I do, it's a 20 gigabyte Google BigQuery database. It has like millions and millions of rows, millions. And it processes instantly in the cloud. Like it's as fast as you can refresh the screen and you're getting updated predictions based on that model running because you're scaling at the cloud level. So when you're doing AI in the cloud, the scalability is unbelievable. So yeah, it would be great if you could do a webinar on ML. Yeah, absolutely. We can show how to do that. What we do is specifically you can create a model in Azure, and then we point to that model in Reveal. We tell it what data to use from, let's say you have a spreadsheet and or a SQL database, and you're saying, hey, I have this data over here, but I want to run this model against this data. How can I do that? And then how does that dashboard show up inside of Reveal? So yeah, Casey, let's get that on the calendar for this year. I think AI and ML is cool. And then we're also doing some neat stuff with ChatGPT in terms of their API. And now ChatGPT, if you go there and say, hey, why is Reveal BI so amazing? It'll tell you. It'll tell you why it's so amazing. But what we want to get to is using AI like that and seeing how we can automate the amount of work you need to do to actually do integration. So if you say, hey, I have a database of sales data, can you create a machine learning model to predict? Well, you would have to say specifically, can you create a machine learning model that works in Google BigQuery or Azure ML that will predict sales for the next 12 months based on this other input? And then the AI tools will do that. So these are things that we're looking at through APIs, how we can actually make that happen. Now you would wire them up yourself, but yeah. So will future, everything's included in our price. We don't charge extra for features. So Reveal is priced. Every new feature we add is all part of the price. Yeah, exactly. Productivity grew 400% with ChatGPT. I believe it. I believe it. What's the difference between Reveal and Power BI? It's real easy. Reveal is an embedded SDK. Power BI is a SaaS-based tool that allows you to do like amazing BI if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem and Dataverse. And the price is much higher than something like Reveal if you're trying to embed BI into your app. So there's like software companies, like Fabian owns a software company. Fabian he used to deliver charts in his apps and they were just screens and he did a lot of coding to make it work. Reveal is a whole SDK where the end user can create visualizations, drag and drop like Power BI, but it sits in your app as if it's part of your app. And that way you don't have to go to the cloud. You're not app switching. You're not doing all of those things that folks didn't like doing based on our survey data. So it's that embedded SDK experience. So yep, thank you, Edward. I really appreciate that. Fabian, thank you. We have a big release again coming in, I guess it's March. And your dream of decoupled data sources will deliver this year. We're going through that process right now. So one of the things is in terms of data sources, we have these data sources that are part of the SDK and they were always part of the SDK. Now we're tearing them off one by one. So that way you can simply say, just give me one data source and I don't need to include all of this other code in the SDK. What that does is it minimizes the size of your package deployment, which optimizes what you can do in terms of delivery. So it's pretty slick stuff. Yeah, so that's good. So I think, Casey, we wrapped everyone up here. So again, try Reveal today at revealbi.io. This is one of the hottest topics today is embedded BI. We're like nonstop doing meetings with customers and prospects on how they can digitally transform with things like Reveal. So if you haven't used Reveal yet, please get in touch with us. If you want to get a deeper dive, contact sales@infragistics.com or just contact Casey or I, and we will set you up. So I want to thank Casey for doing this great deck and being in charge of the Reveal survey, for getting all this great information. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate your time, and we'll follow up with you in an email, and we will see you at the next webinar. So thank you very much, everyone.